Hey everybody, welcome to the WWE podcast. Tonight we have Michael Gross returning to the show for a 2-hour review of This Week in WWE. We cover everything from Pat Patterson's passing to what's going on Raw with The Fiend and Randy Orton, Alexa Bliss of course, all the way to SmackDown where we touch on the brilliance, the continued brilliance of Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, and now Kevin Owens into the mix. And yes, we even touch on Sting's debut in AEW at 61 years of age. Yes, we do touch on that. And the cross-promotion between Impact and AEW very briefly as well. So it is a jam-packed show. Let's get everything started right now.
Welcome to the WWE podcast. The most passionate and authentic wrestling analysis on the web. We've got you covered with every Raw, SmackDown, and NXT show, giving you a no bullshit opinion. We know you love wrestling. We do too. So let's get this show underway.
And that's the bottom line. What? 'Cause Stone Cold said so.
Hey everybody, welcome to the WWE podcast here on this Sunday, December 6th, 2020. How's everyone doing? Hope you're doing well as we close out yet another week and start another and creep closer and closer to 2021, which, believe it or not, is about 3 weeks away. Isn't that insane? 2021 is just a few weeks away. And then it's bam, WrestleMania season again. And maybe we get another WrestleMania that's too big for one night. We'll have to see. But thank you, everybody, for joining me here on the WWE podcast as we continue to grow, continue to evolve, add new co-hosts, add new shows. I mean, we've got about 8 shows a week that we pump out to you guys, more when there's a pay-per-view. And so we are here almost every single day of your living, breathing life here on Earth. And hopefully you enjoy our content. If you do, we, not just me, because it's certainly not just a me show, would appreciate you heading on over to Apple Podcasts, giving a 5-star rating and review if you like the show. Is much, much appreciated. On Wednesday, for those that sending in voicemails and are new, we are doing a mailbag show on Wednesday. So we will be doing that. I know that if you send a voicemail on Thursday, that means, again, 6 days you have to wait to get a voicemail answer, but that is kind of the only downside of this, but we get all of the voicemails into a single show, so check that out on Wednesday. But we're here for the week in review, and as mentioned at the top of the show, we've got Michael Gross back with us for almost 2 hours covering everything in WWE, and a lot of fun talking with him. It was a blast, as his knowledge of wrestling is very deep. Well-spoken guy, and he's a main stay here on the show, very, very consistent co-host, and looking forward to having him back here. You know, as are all of our co-hosts here on the show. Much appreciate. I'd really appreciate all of them. And if you haven't check this out. We've got so many different shows, by the way, to dive into. It's not just WWE. We actually have New Japan too. But our newest show is Ups and Downs of the Week with Mimi Burris. So if you like a female perspective and an intelligent female perspective of the Ups and Downs of the Week, well, that show just dropped today, so check that out. And, of course, WWE Rivalries with Anthony DeMarco that covered HBK versus John Cena. That is a rivalry that I think is often overlooked or not emphasized enough of how good it was in the matches that they had and what it did for John Cena. And Anthony does a great job describing that. And, of course, has some audio in that show as well, as he always does, to bring you in the moment with him. And certainly no exception this time around. So check out WWE Rivalries, HBK versus John Cena, that dropped earlier this week on Fridays, always on Fridays. Alrighty. Well, guys, let's get into it. So much to cover, so much to talk about this week in WWE, and of course a little bit of AEW and Impact, believe it or not, with Michael Gross. Let's get to it, and guys, I will talk to you next time. Alrighty, welcome to the WWE podcast, and welcome to your week in review. And tonight, I have got Michael Gross back with the show, The Gardener. He's here with us tonight as we discuss all the things in WWE, and yes, maybe a little bit of AEW, and maybe another promotion with some things going on. Big news. So first and foremost, how you doing, Michael?
I'm fine. How are you? How's your weather up there, by the way?
It finally flipped to winter. and all the leaves off the trees. It was freezing cold. I mean, like we had probably a wind chill of like 15 today. So winter is here for at least the next 4 months. How about you?
You know, it's funny. We had about 2 inches of snow on Monday. It's melted off, but I mean, this is the South, okay? So I'm not like trying to brag. This is the reason I moved to the South. You get it. You understand that. However, you're north of Dad, and Dad lives in Cleveland, and I know they got at one point about 24 inches over the last week. So I know you got to be somewhere knee deep in that, and I feel for you, brother.
Yeah, somehow we missed the snow, but I have a feeling. Look, we get, I think, an average of like 60 to 70 inches of snow per year, so we have it coming. I mean, yeah, there's no doubt about it, and I am very envious of you. And people probably freak out every time you get like an inch or two. Everything closes down. It's just, I mean, it's a joke to us. I mean, it takes 6 to 12 inches for us to maybe think about it. So, anyway, so hey, look, we've got a ton to discuss tonight with wrestling in all promotions, but first, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the passing of longtime Impact employee Bob Ryder and, of course, Pat Patterson. So I'm going to leave it to you first to give me your thoughts on these two gentlemen's passing.
Okay, this is the way I feel about the passing of both of them. Bob Ryder, if Bob Ryder didn't exist, we wouldn't have TNA, which we wouldn't have Impact. A lot of people will laugh at that, but they don't understand the fact that this man helped create at one point what was the second biggest company in the world. Impact did have a chance at one point until they hired Bischoff and Hogan. I'm not going to get into that. But Bob Ryder, from the beginning to the end, was with the company. He was a great man. He actually started his career as the computer guy for ECW wrestling. If you remember stuff like CyberSlam, things like that from like 96, that was all Bob Ryder. Bob Ryder made that happen. And then he went on to become friends with the Jarretts, and if he wasn't on a boat floating with them, talking to him one day and saying, hey, WCW folded, you should do your own thing because you had your brains and you had your own territory before. Why don't you do it again? There never would have been TNA. There never would have been Impact. And you can laugh, but you wouldn't have had Smojo. You wouldn't have had AJ Styles. You could say they would have been in Ring of Honor, but it wouldn't have been as big because they got national television exposure when Ring of Honor didn't. So Bob Ryder was very instrumental in bringing us so many wrestlers. Bobby Roode, the Motor City Machine Guns. There's so many names I could just throw out. Bullet Club wouldn't have happened because you wouldn't have had half those people who came up through TNA or Impact. So with that saying, rest in peace, Bob Ryder. You were a great man, and you're an inspiration. And just for a guy that started out as an internet guy that became a producer and became a long-time backstage just authority figure and a person that helped run a company, you will be missed. As far as Pat Patterson goes, I was always under the impression that there was no better producer and stage manager than Pat Patterson. Pat Patterson was supposed to be the best. If there was going to be a marquee matchup, if there was going to be a title change where they didn't know what to do, they called in Pat Patterson. And Pat Patterson could make miracles happen. He could take chicken you-know-what and turn it into chicken salad. And with that being said, it's crazy because he was released, and it's funny that he was released and then all of a sudden he kind of passes away, but he was older. Time happens, Pat Patterson was a legend. He was the first Intercontinental Champion, winning that in a fictitious tournament in Rio de Janeiro. I hope he had a great vacation down there when it didn't happen. But with that all being said, it's not without controversy, and I'm sure, Matt, you've heard the controversy about him. The guy was fired a few times, and there was a lot of accusations against him. Mm-hmm. So it's I don't want to say a mixed blessing because I don't ever think that anybody passing away is a blessing. That's not my intent with what I'm going to say here. But what I am going to say is that I think all the accusations now go to rest. And so many legends said that they couldn't have had a finish to a match or a great match without him. So that's what I got to say. How about you, sir?
Wow. Well, I will say this. Bob Ryder is a guy that, I can't speak to too much regarding his life. His legacy you covered pretty well. I've been following WWE, which has been my almost exclusively since I've been a wrestling fan, and I have heard news and names pass by through other promotions, and Bob Ryder was one of them. But until you gave me the education on who he was and the impact that he had, no pun intended, that I really didn't know too much about his life. But rest in peace, Bob Ryder. And Pat Patterson, look, the guy is best known for two things. He's best known for being the first Intercontinental Champion and the father of the Royal Rumble, both of which, one way or another, have impacted all of us as wrestling fans. Maybe more so the Royal Rumble. That has been an absolute. You talk about a genius match. You talk about a genius format for a match to get you to WrestleMania. I would argue it's even more important than getting the actual WrestleMania event itself. I mean, some people have told me that the Royal Rumble pay-per-view is their favorite pay-per-view of the entire year, and I would concur with that to some degree. It is a brilliant, just forever changing match that all fans of wrestling have been impacted by Pat Patterson, whether you know it or you don't. He's been known as one of the best finish guys, one of the best minds in the entire business. He was Vince McMahon's right-hand man for how many years in creative? You heard all the stories about him being outside in Vince's pool and going over creative when it was just a few people, maybe like Bruce Pritchard, Pat Patterson, and Vince McMahon. It was a very, very select few that were involved in that creative process, and Pat Patterson was one of those minds. Then you hear constantly, it's the consistent feedback about Pat and what he did for the business and the impact he had, and he just knew how to help stars, particularly in the Performance Center when he was down there, tweak what they needed to do, provide the feedback that they needed. You hear constantly that he was instrumental in the success of X character or Y character. This guy has contributed so much to the business that many of us may not know about and don't even realize because he's not an on-air character. He's best known to me because his on-air character as one of the stooges for Vince McMahon. Him and Gerald Briscoe were perfect in that role. Man, I hated them, but they were perfect stooges, and his contributions go well beyond that. But one of the best minds, from what I understand, and he will be missed. There's no doubt about it. I don't know what the cause of death was, if it was an ongoing illness. 79 isn't exactly super old, so I don't know particularly what happened, but he's going to be missed by many. There's no question.
No, I absolutely agree. It's really weird because you say 79 wasn't exactly old, and my good friend, well, not my really good friend, but Adrian Street just turned 80, and I was looking at his Facebook pictures, and the guy is ripped. He's just ripped. Like he looks like he's just like lifting boulders, and I'm like, how are you 80? And he laughs when I ask him that. So I want to move forward real quick with the news. So Sting has signed to AEW for an extended multi-year contract. Now Sting is 61 years old. Now I'm gonna play a little devil's advocate. First of all, his match with Seth Rollins was probably the best one he had in over the last 10 years. Last good match he had before that was like with Kurt Angle in maybe 2006. The guy has nothing left in the tank. Why would you sign a 61-year-old man unless you have some kind of like the WWE has like the Legends program where you go out and you do promotions and stuff like that. So unless you have a promotion program, I don't know why you would sign a 61-year-old man to come out with a baseball bat. I feel that it's like a grasping at straw kind of thing. It's good to have the name recognition, and it's great to have like the face recognition. We have Sting, but we have 61-year-old Sting. It doesn't make sense. I mean, even Undertaker's younger than that, and he had to retire. So I don't understand what Impact is doing, or excuse me, AEW is doing, and also because they're now aligning with Impact. So let's ball this up into one thing. because their new champion, Kenny Omega, is now going to be showing up on Impact, and things are getting really convoluted in the outside of WWE wrestling world. But, okay, let me ask you, why would you sign a 61-year-old man who was forced to retire in the biggest company in the world?
Well, I think there's one reason for that, and it's certainly not match quality. I think it's definitely Sting is a needle mover, right? Like there are certain needle movers in a business, in any organization, in sports, in movies. There are those headline names that you go, oh my God, so-and-so's here or there. Stars will always dictate viewership in any form of entertainment, and that's across the board. Sting is one of those guys. And it was nothing more than to get people's eyeballs on the product. Yes, he's there for many years, a multi-year, meaning at least 2 years that he is with this company. It is to get the eyeballs on the product. They're trying to make a big impact, a big splash. This is clearly not about Sting. It's to help Sting, hopefully, elevate the talent that are there. And, we could all say that, yes, this is 61-year-old Sting, but the mileage on his body isn't like it would normally be for a wrestler that has worked up until 61. Sting doesn't exactly work a full-time schedule, if at all. He kind of goes from year to year, makes special appearances here and there, but the mileage on his body is relatively low considering his age. That said, he is 61, and that considering that the website Pro Wrestling Tees that sells all the pro wrestling independent, whatever it may be, they had their number one record breaking sale day with the Sting T-shirts from AEW. So yes,
I saw that. That was crazy.
Yeah, so we could sit here and debate whether or not he should even be in the ring, and most of us probably think he shouldn't, and it will be on a very limited basis. But the fact is that he creates eyeballs, and the proof is in the money here. People are buying his T-shirts up left and right. That should speak volumes right now.
Well, I like the meme that I saw going around the internet, which was Sting signs with AEW, then you see Vince McMahon, and he looks at the Undertaker. He's like, "You're unretired." I
saw that. Yeah.
I just don't want to see a 61-year-old man get hurt in the ring. I don't want to see, like with the whole thing with Seth Rollins. Okay, that was an inch away from hurting somebody or killing somebody, and he only hurt him. And an inch up, it would have been nothing else. Just would have continued the match. So my thought process is, like, I don't want to see – I get a feeling – this is the best way I could put it. Like, they're going to make him their version of The Undertaker and have him wrestle, like, one time a year until he's, like, 80. And it's like rip-off stuff. Like, I'd rather see Sting – if he's going to be part of them, not as an authority, but just as like a decision maker.
I know what you mean. Yep.
Yeah. It just, it's like, well, what do we do? Let's ask Sting, and he'll take over the role of Cody Rhodes, because Cody can't wrestle and be also the executive director, and we all know he is. So it's like he takes off the face paint and becomes more Steve Borden. And just kind of goes with that role. And I could deal with that. But that's also something I want to roll into Adam Pearce, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, definitely. And so, I mean, honestly, we could, again, this is something that is, you have to look at this with the perspective of, he's not here to have 5-star matches, right? He's not here to have 5-star matches. He's not here to have probably more than a 5-minute match. I mean, that's just not how he's built. He's got his baseball bat, he's got his face paint, he's got his gimmick, he's got his music, he's got a presence, but we all know this is about 25 years late. I mean, I didn't even want to see him wrestle, particularly in WWE, other than maybe I was mildly interested in Undertaker versus Sting, which we all, I think, were, whether you say you wouldn't want to see that match or not, you would still watch it. I mean, like, we could all trash that match and whether or not we'd want to see it. But Yeah, this is weird. I mean, you have Darby Allin, who's 27 years old. You have Sting, who's 61. That means that Sting was 42 years old when this man was born. I mean,
I know.
it's insane. And think of it like this man was born when Sting was, in 2000 back in WCW. So this is just insane when you look at this. I mean, it's two generations. Yeah. So. All right. Well, I think we've kind of covered the interpromotional stuff. Did you have anything else on the outside WWE news?
Not really. It's interesting. Like I said, AEW is going to work with Impact now,
Yep.
and Kenny Omega is going to appear on Impact on Tuesday. I'm going to watch it, and Impact is down to, I think, about 12,000 views a week. At their peak on Spike. Back in the day, it was up to 1.7 rating, which is more than Raw today.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, I don't know if I sniffed something going on. People think that Tony Khan might have bought Impact, but if you have to buy Impact, you have to buy Access also. It's an interesting concept. If you buy Access and you buy Impact, then you also have to buy Ohio Valley Wrestling, because that's the feeder for Impact, which means that they did what WWE did as far as having WWE, and then they had NXT and Evolve, and which is kind of funny because when's the last time you heard Evolve having a show since the pandemic?
Yep.
Or since the buyout? So this could be a buyout. I don't know. I think we would have heard about it by now, but with it not being a buyout, I think that AEW's onto something. They're working. Obviously, they were working with NWA, having their people come in. Working with Impact could be really interesting. Although Impact is just in shambles. I won't get into that, and this isn't what it's about. This is a WWE podcast. And then Triple H's answer is, we'll work with anybody outside the bubble, which they don't. If they do, they outright bury their talent, or they pay their talent to get buried by WWE talent. So something is stirring the pot here. I want to see what's going to happen in the next couple weeks. This is interesting. I will watch Impact. They actually have piqued my interest on this. Aside from that, I'm done with Outside the Bubble.
Yeah, my mic there. Yeah, I heard that same thing with Triple H when he did the call with the press, and he said, "Yeah, we'll work with anybody." I said, "Yeah, I'm sure that." Yeah, that was to me nothing more than just eyewash, so to speak, where that's a nice thing to say, but I'll believe it when I see it, right? Like I will believe it when I see it, because they have constantly just kind of looked down upon all these other companies, that they're the big one, they're the big boy in town, right? Like they are the ones there that run the show. They know that they are, and what did Triple H call AEW when it first started? The pissant company, I believe, is what he called it. So Don't give me this whole we'll work with any company stuff. I'm sorry, I don't believe it. I don't. Would I like to see it? I think that'd be really awesome. Like I don't know why why there's a downside to that. Everyone would love to see it. I think even it would bring non-wrestling fans back. They'd be like, wait a minute, what? WWE's working with another company? There's going to be a crossover show or something like that? I'll believe it when I see it. But certainly I applaud AEW, and Impact needs it more than AEW or any company right now. If that number is true, and I'll take that at face value. If it's 12,000, that's rough, man. That is really, really rough. So yeah, I think that's great for Impact. I think it's also great for AEW, and it also shows that they're willing, actually putting money where their mouth is, and willing to actually open up to other organizations. So that's pretty cool. Anything else on that front?
No. Honestly, it's outside the bubble. Outside WWE right now. There's a lot of things. Like wrestling is crazy right now, and I think it's really amazing. It's kind of like at a feverish pitch with, companies doing cross promotions, things like that. And unfortunately, we have a lot of people passing away, and then we have legends being signed. Let's see where it all goes. In the meantime, let's talk some WWE, and let's talk about a man that should not kill himself, and that's Jeff Hardy.
Please take this one. What the heck did you make of what happened on SmackDown?
Well, okay, Jeff Hardy is basically he's past his prime, and what he's doing is it should be illegal for his body. When he hit his head on those stairs, I really thought for a second he was dead. And it was the way he landed. At least he put his hand up because he knew he was about to hit his head. I was surprised there was no blood. That was the biggest thing that blew my mind. But here are my notes, okay? First of all, it was a Symphony of Destruction match, okay? So Dave Mustaine of Megadeth somewhere is smiling. The gimmicks just cause concussions, okay? So you have all these guitars. Okay, you can hit somebody flat with it because it's been hollowed out, but if you hit somebody sideways with it by accident, you're going to split their dome. You're going to hurt somebody. And it's silly, like, to have these matches, especially with somebody who's been through as much as Jeff Hardy. And I still feel like he's being punished by putting in this mid-card feud with Elias. And here's the thing. I like Elias, but is Elias a wrestler? Every, 6 months he wrestles twice?
Yeah.
Aside from that, he puts on a concert or talks to the crowd, and now he is putting on a concert to a digital crowd where they pipe in music, or they pipe in boos and yays. This is terrible. And okay, first of all, I don't want to be like somebody who's overwhelmingly negative, but Elias needs to get a pair of wrestling tights. The guy cannot wrestle in jeans but have knee pads underneath. It just looks stupid. It reminds me of like the 90s when DDP looked like a crackhead and he was wrestling and his hair was crazy and he was wearing jeans and he had knee pads underneath. It just looked terrible. And there's way too many people who are wrestling in street clothes today. I digress. It's not like everybody should have a singlet or tights, but not everybody should be wrestling in street clothes. Street clothes were like... It was a special thing if you were going to be in like a bunkhouse battle royal or a street brawl. That was like, oh wow, they're like wearing denim because they don't want to get cut. So it just looked like a concussion special. What I can say is, like, when you whack people with guitars, at least Jeff Jarrett could wrestle. And if people don't believe me or they want to make fun of me, Jeff Jarrett was a phenomenal wrestler. And look at early days of TNA, and before that, way early days of WWE, and before that, USWA. The guy could wrestle no matter what. He could out-wrestle a lot of people on the roster now. But just to see Hardy still doing everything he's doing now, and then have R-Truth hiding in the piano, that was so stupid. Get rid of the 24/7. You and I both agree on that one. Laying out everybody on that whole 20, Drew Gulak, I feel so bad for him because his career was on the uprise, and they got rid of Paul Heyman, and now he's just suppressed. And then the electrocution scene.
I was going to bring that up. I'm glad you did. Yeah.
What was that?
Apparently, wood can conduct electricity. You didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all those years I took in electronics when I was younger, between that and the drumsticks.
Yes.
This could have been a good match. I would actually like to see Hardy reinvent himself. What Jeff needs to do is get away from the high spots. I know that's what made him famous, and that's what people pop for, but the guy has not reinvented himself. The face paint and the Jinko jeans went out in 99, okay? He really needs a new look, a new everything, and a new wrestling style. He can still have his maybe 3 signature moves, a high spot, the twist of fate, and the whisper in the wind, whatever. Aside from that, maybe he needs to become, and people are going to hate me, a submission wrestler or something like that. Change his look, and I don't mean just a haircut or wash off the face paint. I mean change everything, because this man is going to kill himself. And he proved that with that head spot on the stairs. The guy is almost my age. You're going to kill yourself. Please, for the love of God, reinvent. And for the sake of Elias, get rid of the jeans. and let's just watch the guy wrestle instead of just perform every week in front of people who don't exist.
Well, there it is. You covered so much. I don't know what to add to this. I will say, I don't know why Elias is there from week to week, other than it feels like he's there to just promote his album. Like, I don't feel like he's there as a wrestler to compete for a championship or aspire to compete for a championship. I feel like he's a little too gimmicky and too much into the guitar thing. Honestly, I don't understand. Does Elias not have access to a TV, a mobile phone, the WWE network to really verify that, oh wait, why am I attacking Jeff Hardy when I have video proof that it was not Jeff Hardy who did this? I mean, this happened back in May in the Performance Center parking lot when this angle ran, and that's really the only, just one single thread of why this is even taking place. And they fought multiple times where Jeff Hardy went over clean. I don't know how many times. And I said, great, this is over. We can move on to something relevant for both men, and they just continue to go back to smashing each other with guitars because they don't know what to do with them. That's how I read that. But yeah, you're right. With the whole Jeff Hardy thing, I am a fan of Jeff Hardy. He's a guy that is not just nostalgic, but for his age and the mileage he has on his body, I'm impressed with what he still can do. The question is, like you said, just because he can doesn't mean he should. And I am not a fan of Jeff Hardy putting himself at risk at this stage in his life, because we're talking about the man's life, not just the character, but his actual human life as a person. I am concerned for Jeff Hardy. Like you said, that spot, I held my breath. I said, oh my God. And like you said, I was looking for blood too. He must have become within fractions of an inch of being, maybe a paraplegic, completely knocked out. I don't know, but he has to, at minimum, be concussed. If he's on SmackDown this week, I will be shocked. I'll be a little bit appalled that WWE would let him compete. I know they have many protocols, but it just wouldn't be a good look given the promotion or the attention that this spot has gotten. So I'm a fan of Jeff Hardy taking some time, like you said. I don't know if it needs to be a complete 180, but he needs to tweak everything that he's doing from a character standpoint. I don't know where he needs to go, Brother Nero, or maybe just, like you said, lose the face paint. I'm the Swanton Bomb, gives me agina every single time I watch it because it's such a small window of opportunity and a small margin of error that you have to hit in order to not land on your neck or the top of your head and snap your neck and hit your opponent. It is such a high-risk move. I mean, he's done it many, 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 many times. But, yeah, you're right. Let's give the guy a little bit of a new jolt. Take some time away, reinvent, rethink. And with Elias, I don't know what this guy does. He comes in, he runs down the crowd that's not there with his music, and then he gets interrupted. And the person that comes down ends up fighting and usually beating Elias, and Elias goes away and comes back the next week. Rinse, wash, and repeat with Elias. So I don't understand, like you said, let's see what this guy can really do. And I don't know if it's a lack of confidence on WWE's part or if it's just they haven't given him the opportunity yet and everyone else has been up to bat. So, I'm kind of with you there.
Well, the one thing about Elias is he reminds me of a segment that they had with Carlito a long time ago. Because Carlito obviously was not happy with where he was, and he was supposed to be booked to be a main eventer when he came in with Cena and everybody else. So Carlito was supposed to be a joke, and every city he was going to, he was supposed to come out and dress like a goofball, whatever. And, of course, I lived in Memphis. He came out dressed as Elvis, and he held a guitar, and everybody was supposed to boo him and make fun of him. Instead, they were chanting his name. And he just threw the guitar and he went back to the backstage. And the same thing happened with Elias when he was supposed to be a heel every week. He would just be in the ring and say, "Who wants to walk with Elias?" And all of a sudden, everybody was chanting with him.
Yep. And
everybody liked him. But there was no reason to because we never saw him wrestle. And that's the thing. I actually watched him wrestle in NXT. I saw him actually in NXT Live. He wrestled under a mask in Cleveland. It was part of his going away before he came to the main roster. It was like a weird thing. I think he lost to Aleister Black, which was I kind of miss Aleister Black, but it was a good match. And the guy, I don't want to say he can go, but he was, and I don't want to say that he was carried, because it was maybe a 5-minute match, and it was live, and I was just like, happy. But the fact is, like, I think there's a wrestler underneath there. I'd like to see that. If he's a musician, if he's actually like a talented musician, this is what they're doing with him, then let's take him. If you want to do WWE records, then do that. And you've got this big stud that you can put on a record label, fine. But don't put it in the ring, and let's not like have a veteran almost kill himself over an angle that's going to go absolutely nowhere.
Right. And when I think about Elias, and when you think about any wrestling character, you should have some kind of emotion. You should have like, I'm looking forward to seeing that person on Monday night or Friday night. Or, oh my God, I want to see that person get their ass kicked. I don't feel that anything with Elias. I feel nothing. I just go, I know what to expect from him. He's going to say his catchphrases. He's going to try to sing a song. Someone's going to interrupt him, and then he's going to go away. And I mean, it's so formulaic. I don't know if they're just not willing to take a chance with him. I don't know, but I just don't feel a whole lot for him. But I want to see what he's got, as you said. I want to see what's underneath all of that gimmick and all of that musician front. I want to see what's behind the makeup, so to speak. So you're right. But okay, moving on though, I do want to touch on probably the big ticket item from SmackDown. And I know it's the big ticket item from SmackDown, and that is Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, Kevin Owens, Otis. And yeah, we're jumping right to the main event, but that's what's kind of next on my mind here. I know I'm probably making you scour in your notes, but
you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you shuffling. But I just wanted to touch on this before we get too deep into the show here, because first of all, what do you think about what they've done with Roman Reigns? Because you and I have been such anti-babyface Roman Reigns for so long, and they finally flipped the switch in August, and here we are. It's December. It's been 3 months, roughly 4 months almost, since they flipped the switch on Roman Reigns turning to a heel, and now he's tangled up with Kevin Owens. How are you liking what they've done with Kevin Owens? Well, Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, and now Kevin Owens.
I absolutely love it. Like, first of all, you couldn't find the perfect foil for Roman Reigns. So Kevin Owens is the person. Although it's weird because they had pushed Kevin Owens down to the mid card for a while, and then they had him doing commentary on NXT for a week and doing a show on NXT for a week. So it kind of left you going like, why him? But then you look at SmackDown, you say, who else? They haven't built up anybody else, and there's nobody else who has a poison tongue that can actually cut a promo and just, go head to head with, say, like Paul Heyman or anybody else who can cut a promo to make it as much in depth as you need for a feud. Now, I love Reigns as a heel. He's doing a great job. Honestly, I see so my notes is that I kind of see either an Uso face turn is coming, or there's going to be a Kevin Owens almost wins, but there's going to be a twin kind of thing, like, because I think that the twins are they're just going to team up on him. This whole head of the table, I don't like that term. I think there could have been a better term for it. I like the tribal chief. I don't like the head of the table. But that's just verbiage. That's just something that's personal to me. I think that it hurt Kevin's character to be teaming with Otis, just because it drags Kevin down. It makes him look like, I can't find a better partner. I'll team with Otis. This guy lost his briefcase to Law and Otis. Like, no. You're supposed to be going against the champ, who's supposed to be the guy that took out Drew McIntyre, who choked him out. The finish to the match. Did you understand the finish to the match? Did that make sense to you?
Well, they DQ'd Roman because he wasn't the legal man, because for applying the guillotine to the legal man in the tag match. But that's the logic. I don't they're not consistent with that logic because they have the illegal man attack the legal man all the time, and this just happened to be the one time that the ref's like, no, I have I'm a trigger finger tonight. You guys don't DQ, right? Like, so that's how I read it.
It was definitely like too much trigger finger. It like why all of a sudden do we care about the rules when earlier we had Corbin and his people, like, the Forgotten Sons, which we try to forget about, come in, they do everything in the ring for a second, and then Corbin gets a win, but yet we get like half a second of a guillotine, match is over.
Gone, yeah.
Yep. So there we need more consistency and stuff like that, but that's a different situation. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about here is, Reigns and Kevin Owens. First of all, this could be a great match. I really think this could be a great match because both are great competitors, and Kevin Owens can do anything in that ring. And that guy has gotten himself in so much better shape than he was in the last couple of years. He's looking good. Reigns is, I don't know what he's been eating, but his biceps are getting big. I like Reigns' look. I like Reigns' attitude. I think that Jey Uso is getting pushed a little bit more than he should be, though. And that's going to be the key factor in this. Is his brother going to come back? Is his brother going to help him? Is he and his brother going to screw up? Is Reigns going to continue to beat them down? There are so many what-ifs on this. And that's the cool part about this, is because there's a what if. What if? Is it going to be a turn? Is it not going to be a turn? Are they going to be obedient? Are they not? Who's going to help Kevin Owens? No one. Is it going to be Otis? Does anybody care? There are a lot of what ifs. You can't predict this one. I mean, obviously, I see Reigns retaining. I mean, we're both bright men. We're not idiots. And I think everybody who listens to the podcast knows that we're not idiots, and they're not idiots. But it's going to be the finish to this match. And obviously, with the beatdown with chairs, it's going to be a chair match. So, let's not delude ourselves. But, I'm looking at any other notes I have from this. Is just Reigns looks so dominant, and he looks so demanding that he looks like a real champion. And I love the fact that, like, walking away from the ring, Paul Heyman looks worried every time. Yeah. I love that. I love, they talk about ring presence. It's out of ring presence. That's a real manager presence. He looks scared of him. And that is great. That is selling. That is, that puts butts in seats. That's we don't know what we have. He's afraid of him, but we don't have a loose cannon like Bruiser Brody. We have a guy who's in control like Roman Reigns.
That's the part that I think people that maybe aren't in tune to seeing this or have kind of come after the managers have been kind of passé and it's outdated, so to speak, that people have managers. Something like that you and I both noticed, because those are the things, those little things that managers do that, yeah, they may go unnoticed, but it makes such a big impact. Because not only has Roman Reigns done such a great job that he doesn't need Paul Heyman on the mic, which is really unthinkable, but also Paul Heyman is there. If he can't speak, he's going to be doing body language the best of his ability, and my God, is he nailing it. Every single time he's shocked. He's shocked and he's scared about what he's seeing from Roman Reigns, yet he continues to plug along with Roman Reigns. I mean, so there's nothing he can do that would have Paul Heyman say, no, I'm done, this is crossing the line. Like, Paul Heyman is such an evil character, yet so intelligent that he's willing to stick with Reigns because, as bad of a person as he is, he knows that that's where the money is, and that he's willing to accept the risks that go along with it. And the body language that Paul Heyman has exuded over the last several weeks have been just awesome.
It's amazing.
It's just amazing. Yeah, like, without even talking, and we all know how good he is on the mic, but just his language is just great. So those people out there listening, you may not have noticed or not looked, watch Paul Heyman's language throughout the matches that Roman Reigns has, or even during the promos that he has. It's just pitch perfect, spot on. So kudos to Paul Heyman, who hasn't really said a whole lot, but his body language has done the talking, and it really is adding to to Roman Reigns' heel character, I think. And to kind of put a bow on the match, though, he beat down Jey Uso, and I think that was To me, I kind of saw it coming. He kind of warned Jey that there will be consequences, and he beat him down. I still think Jey Uso will come out there next week and atone for his sins of whatever he's done to Roman, and Roman will still say, I love you, man. I had to do it. I love everything Roman does that's evil to Jey. It's afterwards he says, and I love you, man. It's all covered in love, yet the actions are evil. It's just so layered perfectly for just an SOB that you want to see someone come down and kick his head off. It's great. Otis being destroyed on the outside, also, I cheered for that. I was like, yes, that made me feel really good. That was the one thing Roman did. What's that?
I thought he was dead. I thought he was dead for a while. I mean, like, he was out of the match for like 10 minutes. Like,
yes.
You got to be cold cocked or you got to be bleeding. And we saw Jeff Hardy almost kill himself, and I didn't see anything with that with Otis. But go ahead.
No, I was just genuinely happy to see Otis get destroyed. Because I'm not an Otis. It made me. I was like, yes, thank you, Roman. That's the one time out of everything he's done since his heel turn, I was like, I would have cheered that. I'm sure that if this was in front of fans, some fans would have probably cheered this too, because they're kind of sick of the Otis character, the way that Vince McMahon's presented him. So that was great. Not intended to be great in the way that I was cheering for it, but again, Jey Uso being beat down, he's going to come back and just lick his wounds and continue to be the kind of the kind of slave or whatever he needs to be to Roman, whatever Roman wants him to be. And yes, Kevin Owens is going to lose at TLC. I think there's really almost no chance Kevin Owens wins. Almost none, considering we're also getting close to WrestleMania season. It's almost a 0% chance. So.
Well, it's one thing I can say about Kevin Owens. I mean, I followed him from the Indies when he was Kevin Steen, and you know this, and blah 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 blah. The point is, there was nobody who could be unscripted that had a better tongue than him. I mean, that guy could cut a promo on anybody.
Yep.
In fact, Steve Austin said when he was Kevin Steen back in the Indies, he's like, if I was younger, I'd love to wrestle this guy because just the promos alone, we could sell out a house. And I hate the fact that he's scripted now, because I would love to see, if he was unscripted, how much more, and if you had a live crowd, how bigger it could be. And I think it could be a lot bigger. Of course, he's going to go under. But, there's a lot of credibility with Owens just for the fact that he was a former Universal Champion. So you feel like he's got a better shot than, say, Cesaro. Or, Aleister Black, I hate to say it, but, he's got a better shot than anybody who's they're trying to build up. At least he has some credibility behind him. It's just the fact that he had to toil in the mid-card to no-card for, 6 months. So.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. Is this is the most relevant thing that Kevin Owens has done since WrestleMania last year.
Yep.
I mean, yes, he was injured, and I get that. But even when he came back, he was doing his Kevin Owens show, kind of in and out of random feuds, just being the host for other feuds during his program. I got mixed up with Seth Rollins very quickly, and all these things. This has been the most relevant thing that Kevin Owens has done in 8 months. Since April. Yeah.
I know. It's sad, but that's what bothered me, because I look at SmackDown and I'm like, who is a viable person to take on Roman Reigns? And it's pretty empty. But with that being said, I like this just because I think they can stretch this out a couple months, and then we go into the Royal Rumble, and I think that after that we'll find something. There's a couple points that I'm going to point out later of things that we did not see this week, but
you mean like Lars Sullivan?
You knew who I was exactly going to say. Why is the Freak not on TV? If they have covered his ass so far,
yep,
they have done so much for him, and I apologize for saying the word, but they've done so much for him. He should be the one. It just makes sense, but he's a heel, or at least all he does. And have you seen him wrestle a real match?
No.
Exactly. That is kind of scary. Is he Elias? Is he gonna like beat somebody over the head with a guitar. Like, he has not shown a real match. He's just sneak attacks people, beats them down, and just walks away. So how's this guy a threat to anybody? But that should be the biggest person. And if they really want this guy that bad, they should turn him babyface and have him go after Roman Reigns.
Yeah, they should, but he hasn't been on TV in, like a month since he did those 2 sit-down interviews with Cole and Corey Graves and talked about his childhood and people making fun of him on the playground, and he made the bullies cry, or I don't know, and then...
They were terrible. They were terrible.
Whatever.
It's like poor man's Raven. It's poor man's Raven, but... Okay, so I want to ask you how you feel about Asuka and Lana versus Nia and Shayna Baszler.
Well,
I know.
So here's how I feel. I feel it's good for Lana's career to be relevant and not just a sidekick or a eye candy to Bobby Lashley or Rusev, and that she's actually on her own and that she's somewhat making a career, albeit a character that is kind of pitiful at times, just who's a grown woman making, probably at least 6 figures, maybe 7 figures a year, and yet is not, doesn't have the, the kind of like, I don't want to say balls, but she doesn't have the guts to stand up for herself and actually say, hey, wait a minute. Like, why am I being demoted? Why am I being talked down to by my peers? Why am I not standing up for myself and just sitting in a corner with a dunce cap on? I mean, like, how old are we? I mean, they're treating her like they're in middle school, and she's accepting it. So that part of it, I was waiting for her character to snap in a way that makes you get behind her and put Nia through a table. And she's starting to gain a little confidence. So part 1 of this, I think it's okay for Lana's career. The only side effect I have on this is that Asuka, the Raw Women's Champion, is getting lost in nowhere with this, lost in oblivion with this program that is really all about Lana right now. It is 100% focused on Lana and Nia Jax, and Shayna Baszler and Asuka are along for the ride. And what's really the biggest casualty of all of this is the Raw Women's Championship itself. Because when has that actually been a relevant thing lately? Yes, we had Asuka give it to Lana because Asuka just decided that we should defend it all the time because that's what I do, and she defended against Lana last week. And the match, I think, ended up in a no contest because of Nia Jax. But the point is, the Women's Championship on Raw has been irrelevant and not in the spotlight for a scary amount of time. And the only explanation I can think of is they were just waiting and having Asuka spin her wheels and kind of go through the motions, be on TV one week, not in the next week, simply for the fact of waiting for Charlotte Flair to return. Because I think when Charlotte comes back, which is presumably very soon in the next 4 weeks prior to the Rumble, you will see her be immediately interjected into the Women's Championship match, or scene at least. So that's what I think is happening here, because they feel like they maybe have nowhere to go with the Raw Women's Championship. When they're giving title opportunities, forced title opportunities away to Lana, you know that there's not a whole lot of, at least in their eyes, not a big candidate pool that they can pull from.
Well, I mean, you could flip the script, and you could also look at Carmella and Sasha Banks. I mean, Sasha Banks is one of the best female performers in the world. She's one of the 4 female horsemen, and then you're going against Carmella. Now, Carmella is way better than Lana. Don't get me wrong, but it's like the same thing. You've got a beautiful girl, but Carmella is not in the league of Sasha Banks or Bayley or any of the great female performers. She's good, but she's not great. Lana she's improved, but at best she's okay.
She's unproven. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to crush anybody's spirit, but she's really not that good. And while she improves week by week, I don't think it was ever fair for her to step in a ring. I think she was always better as valet. And I get the fact that her husband is working for a different promotion, but there's other ways you can use her. She would have been a great interviewer or something like that. To have her intertwined with this feud, especially with Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. I mean, Shayna Baszler, I wouldn't fight her. I wouldn't fight Nia Jax either. I mean, I'd probably run the other way. I mean, those are two big girls, but especially like Shayna Baszler, and I'm supposed to believe that she could hold her own or even roll them up. It's rather inane. I mean, Asuka, you can believe that she can hold her own against anybody. She came in with the mystique. You always think anybody from Japan has like some kind of weird martial art to them, even if they're just somebody off the street, you know. And she's trying to do like a female version of Muda and stuff, and I get it. But she can't carry Lana forever, and Lana should not be in this position. And I just feel like, I still feel like it's some kind of, I mean, at least they're not putting it through tables anymore, but it's still some kind of punishment for her husband leaving. And they're putting her on TV, which means she's getting paid, which is good for her. But the fact is, there's so many, like, I think Dana Brooke is really talented, and you know I'm really big on Ruby Riott, and they won't give her a win to save her life. And they're way better performers than Lana, and I think they should be in this spotlight. They should be people that they should, you know, just showcase a little bit more and give us a little bit more, you know, depth and texture to. And, you know, like, I mean, Peyton Royce has come a long way. There's so many people who've come a long way, and we're putting Lana there. And I feel it's more to embarrass her at the long end of the story.
If that is true, I mean, that's you know, bad job out of WWE. I mean, how old are we, right? Like, if you're going to punish somebody because their significant other decided to go elsewhere, I mean, that speaks volumes if that is indeed true from WWE management, which they will never, ever admit to on the outside. But it's possible that it is at least a contributing factor to how they're positioning Lana right now. I'm just, you know, I don't understand what the championships are doing in this. The championships are just really losing steam quickly, sitting in this program that is all about Lana going through a table. Like, that is the premise of Lana escaping going through a table every single week, and yet the championships are tied up in this stale because they're not being talked about, they're not being discussed, they're not being chased, particularly the women's tag team championships. I mean, you talk about a division that has almost nobody that they can contend with. Okay, fine. The Riot Squad, they're a formidable team that they could defend it against and hopefully drop them to at some point. But outside of that, who do they have? They broke up the Iconics for God knows what reason. You have Peyton Royce and Billie Kay. Billie Kay's giving people headshots. You have Peyton Royce, who has, you know, in terms of the pecking order, probably a little bit higher than Billie Kay. Got a couple of big pins on the Survivor Series pay-per-view and has been kind of relevant. But you talk about the Iconics being broken up. Why? I still don't understand. You'd think they'd have some master grand plan. They didn't. I don't understand that. And I loved the Iconics the way that they were presented. I thought that they could have a long run with the championships. But my point is, this whole program with Lana and Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax, there are so many good things. You have Shayna, who's a great performer. You have the championships on both ends, all sitting there just collecting dust because we have to worry about Lana and Nia Jax trying to put her through a table every week. I don't get it. But
it's going nowhere. It's you know, is the dog wagging the tail, or is the tail wagging the dog on this one? I would really love to know what the long term is on this one, but I think there isn't going to be one. I think it's going to be like some kind of blow off tag team match, and then that's it, and then they go separate ways. That's the only way I can see them ending this thing, unless it becomes so personal that Nia is always after her, but it just makes no sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, when you look at the SmackDown side this past week, too, with Natalya and Bayley, I was shocked that Bayley tapped out clean to the sharpshooter from Natalya. When is the last time that Natalya had a win like that? It may have been years. I mean, that it really may have been years since Natalya got that big of a win. And if it doesn't go anywhere, I will be even more kind of disappointed in this, because Natalya she's a veteran. We all know what she is. She's the woman that wears cat ears down to the ring. I'm not a big fan of her personality, because I think she's an awful actress. Just, I mean, bad. But in the ring, she's very good. She's the veteran. She has the Hart family name. She is certainly respected. It's not about respect. I'm just not a fan of her character with her acting ability. It's just bad. I mean, not everyone's good, and she's terrible at acting, and that's fine. But I don't know what this win meant, because you just beat Bayley, who was on the hottest of hot streaks in the women's division over the summer, and she lost to Sasha Banks, and then she loses to Natalya here. Because Bayley, I guess, was distracted by Bianca Belair, but not really. So there's no excuse for Bayley. But it was a huge win. And what did this mean to you with Natalya getting that victory?
It was a very big surprise to me, actually, because I was like, is this really going to happen? I did not see Natalya winning. Usually when Natalya comes out, she enhances somebody else. I hate to say it like that, but she's the most tenured woman on the roster, so I get that. And I figure that she's there to put over people. Maybe they're going to give her one more rise to the top. But as far as her match tonight with Bayley, or last night, whatever, it surprised me. Like, I did not believe that she was going to win. And of course, they're going to blame stuff on, Bianca Belair being out there, which those glasses and those tassel things.
Oh, thank you.
That was god awful. I'm crossing it off in my notes right now. Like, that was heinous. What? No. It's just, ladies out there, if you're listening, don't ever buy anything like that, because a man will never find you attractive. At least not this man, and maybe I'm not the man for you, but the point is, it was god awful. It was. They were just ugly, and then I need more with Bianca too.
Yeah, definitely.
She's becoming like her husband, like a one-trick pony, and we're gonna get to the Street Profits in a minute. But the fact is, I was really surprised about this win. I figured Bayley would have got her with something, but Nat winning, I mean, good for Nat. And I honestly think it was just one of those. I think it was one of those pat on the backs for just being of that kind of things. And with Pat Patterson dying, I think it might have been one of those, like, let's give that a win, and just, if we're going to further a storyline, let's give one of our own who's going to be here forever a win, and then we can go from there and try to develop more from there.
That's probably what it was. It might have been an atta-girl, like, here's a nice win for you because you've been irrelevant for a very long time, and you're typically there to help put over newer talent. She knows her role, and we've all kind of accepted that's her role, whether you believe it or not, or feel like she should have another run or not. The fact of the matter is that she has been established very, very firmly for a very long period of time as never being in that top echelon of the women's division, never really always competing for the championship, never really holding it, but just scratch it and then get pushed down to the even lower card, or just forgotten or off TV for several weeks. That has been Natalya's career, and yet she is still the most respected because of her tenure, because of her family name, and because of her in-ring ability. She's good in the ring, and she is willing to help out the younger talent backstage. From what I hear, she's very willing to help, very helpful, very good at giving feedback, and does assist with the younger talent in the backstage area and in NXT and all that. But the point is that she is just this big of a win. If it goes unnoticed or forgotten, I will be shocked, because this could be a way for her to launch it herself into the SmackDown Women's Championship picture. You could say that this is, again, I'm probably reading into this way too much, given the fact that Vince, tears up scripts 5 minutes before the show and rewrites. So the fact that I'm thinking long term is probably irrelevant. But they could take this as a launching point for her to challenge for the SmackDown Women's Championship. It's, yes, you have Sasha as a babyface, but is Sasha really a babyface the way she acts? I don't know. Maybe we can touch on that next, or the Street Profits, as you mentioned. But lastly on this, though, with her eyeglasses, my God, who's giving her this fashion advice? Like, it was just, I know that it's a character. I know it's supposed to be flaunting. It's supposed to be very showy. I get it, but it was awful. It was awful. It's equivalent to people who put eyelashes on their car lights, their headlights. It's kind of like that's not cute. It's not. I don't get it.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
It's gaudy.
It's bad.
It's terrible. Look. I'm not a fashionista, but I do own a pair of Diesel jeans. So, with that being said, like, seriously,
Yeah.
like, that's got to go.
Please.
I don't care. Like, just please. Yeah. So, okay. I want to ask you what you thought was the most irritating segments of this week.
Well, that was one of them. The Elias being electrocuted apparently through the conduction of electricity through wood. That he has apparently reinvented science. That was one of them. Oh boy, put me on the spot here. I mean, those two definitely were it. I can't talk about Retribution because they're kind of irrelevant, and they're seen to be just dissipating a little bit, which is nice. Raw Underground's gone. Those are usually my hot spots for annoyance. Sasha Banks. It was, and this is what I kind of alluded to a little bit when I said that she wasn't necessarily a babyface. We never got the real turn to her as a babyface. We only got the default, you're the babyface because Bayley attacked you. Well, that doesn't make you a babyface. That makes you stupid because you didn't see it coming. So we're all supposed to feel sympathetic. And the way that Sasha Banks acts, I'm not a fan of her kind of arrogance and her facials and everything else. Though I love Sasha Banks as a performer. I love her. I'm not saying anything negative on her as a person, as a character. She's really good. I just don't think the current version of her should be cast as a babyface. She's screaming heel right now, screaming it at the top of her lungs. I see no attractive qualities to her, not physically obviously, but in a personality state. Why I should root for her to win? Why should I root for her to win against Carmella? Because what? She was attacked from behind a couple of times. But as a character, I don't feel like I'm rooting for Sasha. She's an arrogant twit, is the best way I can put it, in a PG way. She's just...
No, that's good. That's good.
I mean, that's the only word that came to mind outside of a couple of other ones that were not PG.
No, you're okay. You're okay with me.
Yeah, I felt it coming, but I don't know. So my last thing on this, so those are my three segments that annoyed me. The whole Elias thing, Sasha Banks, and certainly the Bianca Belair sunglasses. But I'm sure you'll mention a couple of that I'm missing, but go ahead.
The fact that Miz and Morrison are acting like
Mojo
Rawley and Gronk.
Yes.
That was bathroom segments to me. The way they talk to each other, the way they act, it might work with a crowd. It doesn't work without a crowd. They act like 14-year-olds. Like, I want to reach through my TV, and people talk, oh, that's heat. No, like, really, I used to love John Morrison, but now being relegated to a stooge for the Miz, I just want to choke him for his own good, to put him out of his own misery. It's so sad that his career has been flushed down the toilet, and just their interviews with Sheamus, and because he's another one of my favorites, but he's been doing well. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. Last few weeks he's been doing a lot better, and I'm not gonna down him. That's one thing I'm gonna say. The only thing I will down him is, do you really go to the ring dressed like an Irish potato farmer?
Yeah. Yeah.
With the bowl, like, come on.
You talk about stereotypes, yeah.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's a little over the top. I get it. You're Irish, okay? But aside from that, like, their segments were god awful terrible, and it was them and the Street Profits. I cannot watch the Street Profits anymore.
Oh.
They are overexposed at this point. Like, okay, their match with the New Day, everybody talked about how great it was. Do you know how much screaming was in that whole match between the two of those teams?
No.
That's what they do. They mirror each other, but they're screaming the whole time. They make noises, and I can't stand it. I get it if you get kicked in the stomach and you make a noise, but they just scream the whole time. And you guys can look it up. That every time Street Profits wrestle, they scream a lot. Every time New Day wrestles, they scream and make noises a lot. That match it was like Jerry Springer, like I just wanted to keep blanking it out. And, with the Street Profits, They talk about the smoke. There's never any smoke. So stop talking about it. You talk about the Solo Cup. What's in the cup? If you're not going to talk about what's in the cup, don't bring up the cup. And just don't act like everybody's acting like 14-year-old kids.
Yeah. Oh. I'm trying to really hold myself back from just going on a complete tear of a rant on this because I don't want people to think we're super negative on the product. But when we're calling a spade here, like there are some good things, and we'll get into some good things. I mean, Roman Reigns, we absolutely are really, really high on the whole story there. But this, and I have brought on co-hosts that, and I've talked to listeners that are big on Street Profits. They love the Street Profits. They think they're, the best thing since sliced bread, and that's fine. That's fine. We're not arguing that they're not probably the bigger star, or maybe the biggest star in terms of tag team right now. That's not the point. And they're ultra talented in the ring, especially Montez Ford. That's not the point. They are very good, and respect to all guys there. It's the personality that I have no idea who gravitates to this. I have no idea what Vince McMahon's demographic is in his mind that he goes, oh man, they're going to love this. What? Who? I mean, who is looking at this going, man, they are so funny, they're so entertaining. I want to meet these people. I want to meet the person that just is somehow just drawn to the personality of the New Day, or really, and the New Day, but Street Profits. Yeah, like they are obnoxious. I don't need to hear the word fam 500 times in a promo. I don't need to see them not even close to staring at each other, but staring at the camera having a conversation. Like that's been a mortal sin of WWE forever in terms of production. Everyone stands in a line so the camera can see them backstage instead of talking to them each other, face to face. Everyone has to stand in a perfect line. It's been a real Achilles heel of mine, and they are just the epitome of that week to week. I don't need to hear their commentary. Over the top, like rhymes or raps or lingo that they have for everyone of what's going on in the different storylines. I have no idea why people are gravitating to these two individuals in terms of cheering for them. If they were heels, oh, great, perfect. That's how I would cast them as heels. It's just this iteration of them wanting the smoke, carrying the red cup. Okay, is it supposed to be he's cool, man. When I was in college, we used to play that with beer pong. Or, like, what's the connection? I have no idea what that's supposed to do other than connect with the younger audience because all the younger people know what that cup represents. Well, okay, fine, we get it. But I cannot stand them as a personality-wise. In ring, again, Montez Ford, we all know how crazy talented he is. Props to all of them. I actually did like the match. I was just kind of ignoring the screaming. I thought it was maybe the match of the night. It was absolutely amazing. And again, props to all these guys. It's just personality. And you're right about Miz and Morrison, too. They are 14-year-old guys stuck in 35-year-old bodies, 38-year-old bodies, however old they are. They just froze their brains at 14 and just plopped it into these bodies. And they are almost, like you said, that's a great way to put it. They are not the heel heat that you go, oh, I hope someone kicks their ass. No, like you want to... That's because it's when they get their ass kicked, it's not satisfying. It's just you're just like, oh, well, I just want them to just go away. I don't even care about seeing them getting their ass kicked. They are just channel changing. That's the difference here. They're channel changing heat. It's not I'll pay to see someone beat them up. There's a difference. So I'm gonna get off my soapbox.
No, it's good because the problem is you and I always agree about everything, so we never have I love it when you and Ash would talk because Ashley always had a different opinion, but I mean you and I have been in this game a little bit longer than most of our cats, and so but with that being said, I'm tired of seeing the Street Profits. I'm tired of seeing Miz Morrison. They both just irritate me. In fact, the best thing for the Street Profits, just don't see them on TV for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah. And
people could say well, how can you do that? Well, ask Aleister Black or ask Andrade or ask Apollo Crews or ask anybody else who has talent.
Yep.
And how can I miss you if you don't go away? And if you irritate me every day, I'm not going to like you. And with that being said, though, something I thought was really interesting tonight was watching the Forgotten Sons, 2 of the 3 Forgotten Sons, come back against one of my personal favorites, Buddy Murphy. And what I think is really interesting is because Buddy Murphy's old tag partner was Wesley Blake, who was one of the Forgotten Sons. Now, I wasn't really happy that Corbin went over, but Corbin is another one of those guys who's been overexposed. And honestly, if they would have kept up the Baron Corbin, who was the lone wolf who never talked, and he was a guy that could have worn street clothes like he did originally and didn't say anything, and when he had the long straggly hair and just looked back after he speared somebody and then just walk out, that's what they did with Goldberg when he first came out, and that made sense. People wanted to see Goldberg because they wanted to hear him talk. And do you remember when he first came out, they would put a microphone in front of him and he would just snort and then just walk away.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like what they were doing with Baron Corbin. And then all of a sudden they made him shave his head, become Kurt Angle's stooge, and then he just became the goofiest guy. And then they tried to push him to the moon and it didn't work. And he is like the Street Profits. He's like Miz Morrison. Like, he's there every week. He's overexposed. We don't want to see him anymore. Now, with that being said, he had a match with Buddy Murphy tonight. It was actually a decent match. And it's not like Corbin's a bad wrestler. It's just you don't want to see him. You're tired of seeing him. Because you see a 7-foot guy who is basically one of the Three Stooges. You can't take the guy seriously. Now, I like the fact that he brought in 2 of the 3 of the Forgotten Sons, which I don't think we're ever going to see Jackson Riker again, but that's just my opinion. But I thought there was going to be, and I think going in the future, there's going to be a turn with Wesley Blake going back to Murphy. It makes sense. I think that this feud's going to continue. And I really think that might happen. That's the only way that you can bring in Jackson Riker, a.k.a. Gunner from TNA. But, I mean, it could be story building. It could be something down the road. But let me see what else I have in my notes on this. I was actually really entertained by the match. Corbin worked harder than I've seen him work in a long time. Of course, it was a typical McMahon. Big man has to hurt the little man. And interference had to help, but the interference was my biggest problem with this match. It was so silly that they could run into the ring, attack Buddy Murphy, lay him out right in front of the referee, and then Corbin hits his finisher. Like, that's okay? We don't do disqualifications anymore?
I noticed that too. Yeah. But then, yeah, I know. Then Roman Reigns gets DQ'd. I know.
It's like, what? Yeah. Roman Reigns puts a guy in a choke for 5 seconds, and the match is over. But then we have the King, Corbin, and that whole thing has to go away too. The crown, the scepter. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Gaudy.
And, yeah. So, yes, first things first, the King Corbin. The scepter thing does have to go. The whole I'm a king because I won King of the Ring a year and a half ago needs to go. I know that it worked for King Booker. It worked for a couple of other guys in the past that really, really took it to heart. And really, I think it really revitalized Booker T's career at that point. I mean, I loved him and Sharmell when they were together. Right, yeah. I loved it. But with King Corbin, number one, again, we all know what the Corbin or what the King thing is the King gimmick's going to be for a heel. It's going to be, I'm going to use a scepter as a weapon, I'm going to wear a crown and actually make everyone think that I'm a king or be delusional that I'm a king, and I'm going to call everyone subjects, right? Like I'm going to call everyone my loyal subjects. It's such a formulaic, boring adaptation of the King of the Ring wing for a heel. Now, that being said, I do love the King of the Ring tournament. So the first things first, you're right. Do something with King Corbin. Like, can we please move on from that? But I at least like that they're getting people behind them. Like, I felt this way with Seth Rollins, that he was a Messiah with no disciples, and now he was a king with no followers, no loyal, whatever. And now he's got 2 people with him. He's got two people that at least add a little bit of flavor to his character, at least add a little bit of something. As you said, the Forgotten Sons, but they won't mention them as such. That'll be all, quote, forgotten, I guess, pun intended. That won't exist. Vince McMahon has no intention, I'm sure, of making that a thing. It's to Vince, it's probably they're back with King Corbin, or they're with King Corbin. As far as we're concerned, the audience won't remember. They're going to just be repackaged as whatever. I can guarantee you that won't be something that they bring up. But King Corbin, I like that he has heavies. I like that he has guys that he can do his dirty work if they're going to go forward with this heel thing. I do like that. I like that he has some kind of heat-seeking missiles to do the dirty work, and he comes in for the easy win. But I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of over the King Corbin thing as well. It does feel a little bit stale and overplayed, but he is a decent worker. He's got a good size. Maybe they just made him shave his head because of his receding hairline. I don't know, but certainly it's at least something different for King Corbin. I don't know what it'll mean. I don't know if it's a push coming, but certainly they have a plan. You would think they have a plan for him.
I can only hope. I mean, you got to remember, like when Enzo and Cass came up to the roster, they thought that like they're going to push Cass to the moon, and it just didn't happen. Obviously, he got released because he was not very good at what he did, and he was very disruptive backstage. Same thing with Corbin. I mean, anybody who's like close to 7 foot, Vince just sees as like money, but. For every Undertaker, there's so many great Khali's and Nathan Jones and what was it the guy that didn't even he cut a promo and didn't wrestle, like
Matt Morgan?
No. It was Vade Hansen, something like that. Like the guy cut a promo that he was coming for the Undertaker, and after he cut a promo, they fired him.
I don't remember that. I'll have to,
you got to. It's like Vade Hansen or Vade Hansen.
Okay.
You'll love it. Like he just, it's like him. This guy, he's like this huge guy. He's sitting in like an alley, like sitting in a garbage alley, and he's talking about how he's coming to the WWE and he's coming for the Undertaker, and they fired the guy.
I'm gonna have to YouTube this. I'm gonna YouTube this.
Yeah. It's a weird name, but you're gonna love it because you're gonna be like. Why?
All right. Good. Love it.
Okay.
Well, maybe King Corbin brought those guys out to beat down Dominic for wearing a pink turtleneck or whatever the hell he was wearing.
Oh God.
Maybe there's another one for you. Oh my God.
Well, look, I'm worried about Dominic. Is it me or is he getting skinnier every week?
Yeah.
And I get he's probably getting in shape, but when he first made his debut, he was rather portly, and now he's getting to my size. That's not good. That's But yeah, that pink turtleneck was not good. Now, of course, it was nice to have like the whole Mysterio family out there, and I love the fact that Buddy Murphy is back into his old get up with the tights and stuff like that, because I thought it was individualistic. It looked different from everybody wearing leggings, and when he wore a whole. Like it looked like a diving suit when he was with Seth Rollins. So I love the fact that he's got his own unique look back.
Yep.
However, like my only thing is, isn't he in his like late 30s, and isn't Ray's daughter like 19?
I brought that same thing up, and I know it's legal. It's just icky, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean. I'm not real comfortable with that. They're gonna find a way to skirt around it, but. Yeah, I'm not real comfortable with that.
It feels weird.
And every week they make her dress more and more like a kid.
Yes.
Like when she first came out, she was kind of dressing like provocative, but now she's dressing more and more like a teenager. I don't feel comfortable with that. I really don't.
It doesn't look, and I understand the numbers are legal. I get it, but it doesn't look or feel right. I'm just waiting. I mean, that storyline played out. Can they just go away right now? Like, I don't want to see Aaliyah with Murphy right now. I mean,
No.
Oh gosh. All right. What's next on your list? I know you got a whole bunch of notes, so we can.
Okay, let's talk about the three-way triple threat between Keith Lee, Matt Riddle, and AJ Styles.
Yep.
Now, I think 5 years ago, if this happened in Evolve, which is why they bought it, or maybe, PWG or one of the other independents, this match would have been 10 times better. It's not that this was bad. It just looked a little herky-jerky. Like, I felt like there was too many times where they were positioning themselves for the camera. With that being said, Keith Lee looks really, really dominant. Matt Riddle, how do you miss the boat? First of all, why do you emasculate this guy and take away his first name? This guy was a UFC warrior. He has a winning record in the UFC. That's why he wrestles without shoes. I didn't like the backstage thing when he was telling AJ he was cute, because I feel like he's being punished in some way. Just because he doesn't care about what he says. But this whole thing, okay, this whole match reeks of Bruce Pritchard, because they put Pritchard in charge because he wants to push older talent, and that's why we have like Jeff Hardy almost breaking his neck and so on and so forth, and that's why we have The Miz in a main event for no good reason. But the fact is, I thought, like, in this situation, Keith Lee should have probably went over. He looked the most dominant. He looked great. It was definitely the match of the night, but there was too many WWE spots where it was like pausing for a crowd that wasn't there, or mugging. It was always going to the hard cam. That was my only complaint with the match. Aside from that, it was a great match. Just a little herky-jerky. I think that if you took the governing thing, just took WWE off it, took the hands off of it, and said, all right, boys, you guys have done this before. You did it 10 years ago. Let's do it. I think we would have got a better match. It might have been a little bit more, herky-jerky. Or not herky-jerky, but flippy. A little bit more indie style, so to speak. But I think we would have had a superior match. However, it was still, the match of the night, but still it reeks of Bruce Pritchard. You can see what's going on. It would have been better, way better with a live crowd. How about your opinion?
Yeah, I did notice that as well. That was one of my observations. However, I can't really fault WWE for no audience being there. That is kind of their instinct. I know it's been 9 months since the pandemic happened, and they should have adapted by now. But, I get it. I get it that sometimes those instincts still exist on both ends, production, talent, that, you do everything for a live audience. Everything you say, everything you do, everything you emote is for a live audience reaction. So I get it. But this match was really good. I mean, it was certainly deserving of the main event. It kept you guessing. I had a feeling Riddle was there to take the fall, whether it was Keith Lee that won or AJ Styles. Riddle was the one to be there to take the fall. I don't know if it is him being punished. I don't know if they're trying to distance himself from the whole Candy Cartwright sexual assault allegation, or that he publicly admitted he cheated on his wife. I don't know. Regardless, maybe he's just paying his dues. Maybe he's just going through what young talent should go through, and that's kind of a grinding your teeth process. But Matt Riddle, I think, was the right one to take the fall. You're right, though. I mean, Keith Lee, I think it would have been an interesting pay-per-view if Keith Lee was to face Drew McIntyre. But with AJ Styles winning, I don't have a problem with it. We all, I think, know the outcome, of Drew McIntyre retaining, although I wouldn't take that to the bank. And having, again, that the bodyguard of AJ Styles there certainly adds an intrigue value that it may not otherwise be there with AJ, who I think did need a little bit of something to change up what he was doing too. So AJ Styles versus Drew McIntyre at TLC is guaranteed a really good match. It's just a matter of, does Drew actually retain? Does he not? I don't know. But one last thing I'll say about Riddle is I am not a fan of his personality as some people are. I've made that very vocal here. In ring, again, I kind of feel like the Montez Ford syndrome, where in the ring, my God, amazing. Actual physical credentials, a body of work that is in the UFC. I mean, if you were in the UFC and you were on any level of success, I mean, you are a legit badass, hands down. I mean, you have actual, like, kick-ass credentials. No one can take that away from you. So it's not that. It's not his work ethic. It's not his in-ring. He's really good on all fronts. I'm just not a fan of his personality, of coming up with nicknames for people like a child, Fireface. I want to know who came up with these nicknames. Like, they're not funny. They're not entertaining. I didn't laugh. I didn't find it endearing. I'm not a fan of whoever is creating the humor in WWE. Like, whoever is the brainchild behind who finds things funny and how to present them on TV, I need to have a conversation with, because it's not any of those things.
Amen, brother.
And again, comedy can happen in wrestling, but it's very difficult to produce, no doubt. But it also should happen organically, which is not planned, which means you have to find a guy that is actually good at comedy. R-Truth, admittedly, at times is funny. R-Truth is a guy that has that rare on-screen talent to make you laugh. He's done it at times. As much as we berate the 24/7 championship, he has had some really funny moments on TV. So there are guys that exist, but the production of comedy, to produce something that should be organic, is not easy to do. So, but nonetheless, yeah, back to the match. I really liked it. I'm okay with the outcome. Do you think Drew McIntyre could drop it to AJ Styles? Does this also seem like a foregone conclusion?
No, there's no way. And I'm going to tell you why. You look at both programs between SmackDown and Raw, you've played hot potato with the World Championship in the last 4 months. How many times? At least 3 competitors, I think, on each show.
I think so.
Yeah, if you do it again, it makes no sense. You're just demeaning the championship. And at this point, like, if you do that, do they just take away championships and just have people wrestle and then just kind of write a soap opera? That's kind of like my aspect, or the way I look at it. There's no way he's going to drop it to AJ. I see like a smarmy finish with that ginormous bodyguard getting involved. I think that it's going to be a great match, because Drew can hold his own. He's no AJ. AJ's in the twilight of his career, but in the twilight of his career, he's better than 80% of the people that they have. So it's going to be a great match. I think for AJ, it's one more shot at the top, because I think he's going to relegate himself to the mid-card to help elevate people, which is great, and I think that's humbling of him, because he's talked about it before. However, like I said, the whole thing reeked of Bruce Pritchard, because it should have been Keith or Matt, but they don't want to elevate them. One thing I will say about Matt too, by the way, and I'm going to keep this on the sidebar. His whole personality is the fact that he had like 2 or 3 of his MMA fights reversed because he tested positive for cannabis. So he's the bro because he's always high. And like, he was talking about his bunny Hoppy, and he was talking about a carrot stick. Well, when I lived in the South, we learned that a carrot stick is like a slang term for a joint. It was them throwing a jab in there.
I didn't know that. I actually really didn't. Huh.
I mean, I wouldn't have known it unless I didn't live in Memphis for 13 years. But yeah, like, I would hear people like, "You got any carrot sticks?" And I'm like, "No, man, I just left the restaurant. The carrots are in." They're like, "Oh, okay." And like, I didn't get it for a long time, but yeah. So, if you feel hoppy, it's like you want to go get high.
Mm-hmm.
So that it's dumb. Like, you've got writers who think they're really brilliant, but you've got people who can figure it out. But yeah, that's one of their goofy things. With that being said, though, I think the match is going to be really good. I wish AJ could win it, but I don't want to see hot potato with the title anymore. I really don't. I really wish that McIntyre holds on to it. It was so stupid to put it on to Orton for 1 week to take it away. You're just cheapening how much that title means, and what did it mean? And then you look at Orton doesn't even care anymore. He's moved on to Bray Wyatt, but we're going to get into that in a minute, because I've got a good one on that one. But so I don't know. I really wish it was Keith Lee, and you see something building, because Keith Lee, when he came up to Sheamus talking about, like, I heard you're going to turn on your partner and everything else, I see something building there.
Yep.
I hope it's not a Keith Lee heel turn. Because, I mean, I think from a mile away we can see a Sheamus heel turn. I think, like, a blind person can see it, and nothing against blind people if you're listening. I have nothing against you. But the fact is, like, Sheamus, you can see it coming. It's frustrating to me because I really like Drew as champion, and I want to see him like go on a year-long run. I wouldn't mind seeing him like go against Brock Lesnar in a real match, not just a squash, and retain it. Like a nice, not brutal, but like just a knuckle-dragging Hoss smash. Like just old school, like, oh man, like Bruiser Brody against Abdul the Butcher, just like, we're going to beat the shnikes out of each other kind of match. But retain it, because I think he's the champion that they want Roman Reigns to be. If Reigns drops the belt in 6 months, I won't be hurt because he'll get it again in a year. But Drew, this might be his only shot to solidify himself as a champion. And we've talked about how like people like The Fiend doesn't need a championship. Drew does.
Drew, yeah. I will say this. Drew is, you look back 8 months before WrestleMania and you would say, yes, he needs a championship. And I think while he needs it more than The Fiend does, he's got to the point almost of being a made man. He's almost to that point where you could look and say, he doesn't need the belt, but it still would help him. Like I would think that's how most people view him as, when he's in chase mode. Anytime a babyface is in chase mode, it's always usually more fun. Now that he's at the top of the mountain, he has to stay on top and fend off all comers. And AJ Styles is a new matchup. That's always good. People love new stuff. And this is a newer matchup for Drew McIntyre. So I'm looking forward to that. There have been speculation that maybe he does drop it to AJ, and then Drew McIntyre enters the Royal Rumble, wins the Royal Rumble, and then challenges Roman Reigns and goes to SmackDown for the WrestleMania main event. So there have been rumors of that. Any thoughts on that before we get to Randy and The Fiend?
No, I would actually love that. The one thing I want to touch about on the McIntyre and Sheamus versus Miz and Morrison, real quick, is the fact that this is the second time that The Miz has tried to cash in the Money in the Bank, and he gets beat up, and it doesn't happen. So shouldn't that briefcase at this point been taken away from him?
Bell never rang. That's what they'll say.
That was so incredibly stupid of a reason. Like, you and I are, like, really intelligent people. Like, someone can't just hit a bell, or you can't just say, okay, let's make it happen, and it doesn't happen. Come on. That was silly. And the fact that when Sheamus was outside the ring, and he was getting counted out, then he tries to get in the ring, and then he gets kicked. He never gets in the ring. He gets kicked onto the announce table, but he doesn't get counted out. They start a new count. It's like, but he never got in the ring. Does your hands on the top rope because your knuckles are on the top of the rope, does that mean you're inside the ring? I don't get it. Like, there's just no continuity. I'm sorry.
No, there's not. They're all very valid points, certainly. I'm going to try not to dive into that because I will go on a rant on that. You're poking the bear. I'm sorry. It's all good. All right, but Randy and The Fiend, it's on your list. It's certainly on mine. Here's my quick thoughts on it. I think they've done a really good job with it so far. Number one, it's a newer program. Again, new in most eyes of fans is good, typically. So The Fiend is now on to Randy Orton, and with good reason. Now, I like how they're being very consistent with why The Fiend is attacking who he is. He is attacking people and going after them because of what they have done to him in the past. Randy Orton, we all know what he's done to Bray Wyatt in the past. He burned down the cabin in the woods that apparently held Sister Abigail's ashes. Now, here, I don't want to get into the deeper part of this, of that it actually, in the story, people forget, on SmackDown before WrestleMania 33, I believe it was, that actually apparently not didn't weaken Bray Wyatt's powers, but it somehow strengthened them. So you could look back and be like, well, wait a minute, that was actually ended up being a good thing for Bray. Nonetheless, we have a reason for why Bray Wyatt is going after Randy Orton. I like that. I like that Randy Orton is trying to play head games back with the Fiend. It does make a little bit of sense. Alexa Bliss to me though is really the unsung hero of this entire program, and really of Bray Wyatt's character right now, that I think also needed a little bit of a refresh, and Alexa Bliss certainly did. Alexa Bliss has needed it in the worst possible way, and Alexa Bliss joining the Fiend has been nothing short of a match made in heaven right now with these two. She's getting better by the week. She's all in. Alexa Bliss is a very believable character when she's talking. I love what she's done with her outfit. I love what she's done with her body language, that she's possessed. I also love the little nugget on her show this past week of a doll in a cage. I think that was supposed to symbolize her former self being trapped and imprisoned by the Fiend's powers, so to speak. So her soul is trapped. Again, that's how I read into it. Maybe that's not true, but that's how I read it. Her music has changed. I love that. So I know this is about Randy and Bray, which I think makes sense, and I'm looking forward to the match. I also really like what Alexa Bliss has done here, because she adds depth to the entire story with the Fiend and Randy Orton. So that's my thought.
Okay. I love the whole segment, but there's so much more that I see in it. Okay. First of all, you had the little baby doll that was trapped inside of her little nightstand. I don't know what you call it. There was no reason for it to really be there. Okay. You have a situation where the Fiend was perennially a heel. That's why he's the Fiend. And his last feud was against a heel, which was he dropped the title to Roman Reigns, right?
The Fiend? No.
No, he dropped the title to Braun Strowman.
Yes, Strowman.
Yeah, okay. But it's always been like a heel thing for him. And no matter what, the people, they're going to love the Fiend. They're going to love the Fiend, and so it's a slow babyface turn, okay? Now, you look at the way she acts and the way she's dolled up, the word doll, baby doll. She's dolled up like a little child. She's acting like a little child. She has a baby doll in there. I think it's symbolism. If they actually have writers, I think if there's writers who have a brain, or if I'm reading too much, this is the only place that they put a segment where they have a brain. So it's symbolism of the face turn of the Fiend, okay? Because who are you supposed to believe between the two? Of course, Randy Orton is the quintessential heel. He took over Triple H's reigns as far as who's going to be the guy that you can never trust, the guy that is always going to be the bad guy. It's going to be Randy Orton, period, no matter what. And so you begin this reinvented feud from years ago, and you have all the symbolism in the ring, and you've got her acting like a little girl, and you've got this little baby doll that's trapped, and then the lights go out, and you've got Randy Orton holding her, and then the Fiend takes her back. Okay, my fantasy booking where this could go, and this could be really, really awesome, is that when it comes down to TLC, she says, I want to introduce you to my friend. And so Orton is wrestling the Fiend, and then the lights go out, and then instead of the Fiend's face on the Titantron, you see a baby mask representing a baby face, but not like with a tooth or anything goofy, just like kind of an evil baby face. The lights go up, and the Fiend is now the friend. And he has a baby face mask. And he attacks Orton and beats him. What do you think of that?
Oh, well, I hope that somebody from WWE Creative is listening, because that would be a hell of a story. I think it would make sense It incorporates a lot of layers, of which I don't think that they understand what that word means. But it is see, the problem is as great as some of these things are, they don't layer anything. They just are very superficial, very hotshot, very one dimensional, no long term thinking. So we could say all this stuff that we want, and I love that what the story you just played out, but I don't believe that they are thinking that far. I really don't. I don't think that they are even considering something that would actually require brain power to do a long story arc for. It's just not going to happen. But I like it. Certainly, I do like it. And Alexa Bliss, I think we can both conclude that Alexa Bliss has been an absolute asset to this entire story. That none of us saw coming to this extent. And I'm loving it by the week. I mean, I look forward to the Firefly Funhouses. I look forward to her kind of skipping out and to her entrance music that has just turned dark and evil and sadistic. I love that version of her music. She is just an absolute treasure to watch right now. And I also love how she has her own storyline. She's not just incorporated with The Fiend as kind of a sidekick. She's doing her own thing at the same time with Nikki Cross. And there's rumors of Nikki Cross, joining her as well, where it's one of the you can't beat him, join him type things. And maybe The Fiend was able to possess her as well. And he has a couple of female companions to do his bidding. I don't know. I mean, I've heard of that too. I think it'd be good for Nikki to do something different other than just the lost soul that doesn't know what to do without her cool, the popular girl at school dumping her, so to speak. I hope that they do something with Nikki as well, but I have nothing to complain about with The Fiend and Randy Orton. I love how they haven't touched each other either. It's just The Fiend playing mind games. I'm not a fan of immediately just slugging it out. Like that's what you pay for the network for. That's what you would pay a ticket to go see, is them fighting it out. And often that's a overlooked part of promotion. So yeah, I'm agreed. Like I'm looking forward to this. And do I know who's going to win? I would think probably The Fiend, given that Goldberg is the only one that has blemished The Fiend's record, in which, by the way, I stand corrected. Goldberg is the one that actually took it from The Fiend, I believe, to then go to Braun Strowman at WrestleMania. That is something I try to scrub from my brain, that Goldberg beat The Fiend. To me, he's still undefeated. But yeah,
I bleach my eyes. Oh. Well, the whole thing is like when The Fiend beats you, you're supposed to revert to who you used to be. So here's my thing. Randy Orton is in phenomenal shape. He's put in his time. He's a great worker, but at this point, it's time for him to go to Hollywood. And I hate to say that, but because he's one of my favorite performers of all time. I put him in one of my top 5. I really do. But with that being said, it's like, like I said, Bruce Pritchard is doing what Vince McMahon wants him to do. You got to push the more established stars. Well, that's what killed WCW. And it's not killing this angle, but I think to reinvent The Fiend as the friend, and it would be great. And have him come out to like the sound of like the ice cream truck. Oh, that just,
yeah.
And just Orton just staring, like just looking in awe. It would be, one, a great match because they can both work, but 2, it would be a great angle. And then going forward, you've got a third character for Bray Wyatt because, let's be honest, they're just recycling Mick Foley on him. So, at first it was supposed to be, the Waylon Mercy character, but it's Mick Foley. In 3 Faces of Foley, they're going to do 3 Faces of Bray Wyatt. So why not Bray? Why not The Fiend? Why not the friend? And I think he and Orton could make a program out of this that would just be not necessarily spooky, but fun. And I think that Alexa Bliss would just – it's like I miss Selena Vega. Like if Andrade wrestled without her, it was missing something. And I think that is the way that Alexa Bliss is to this situation. I think that her like coming out, like imagine her like just eating like an ice cream cone and then just like beckoning out the friend, and you just hear that like ice cream music, that the ice cream man music, and he coming out with a baby face on, and that could be so awesome. But at the end of the days, this feud, it's not going to happen like that, but I really wish it would. I see the Fiend going over on this one, and I think that at this point, Randy might have one more title win in him, and I think he's probably going to go the Cena route and probably go to Hollywood.
Yeah, because I think he's a 14-time champion. They don't want him to get to 16, obviously, for Ric Flair purposes. But, yeah, I think Randy Orton, though, at the same time, is also, it's almost like he hasn't missed a step. I mean, he's in such good shape, and he's putting on amazing matches anytime he wants that it's really a credit to him for being able to really stretch his body out this long. And we will see Edge, I'm sure, versus Orton when he returns. It has to happen to wrap up that story, and that'll be fun. That's certainly that'll be a blast to see. And I would think that Adam Copeland, Edge, is on his way back in the next couple of months to get ready for WrestleMania. Hopefully, I mean, and let's all hope that also it's in front of fans, right? Like, let's all hope that it's actually in front of living, breathing human beings. In front of even the Rumble. I mean, like, I can't see the Rumble with nobody, although we've done every other pay-per-view with nobody there. So, God.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine the Rumble without anybody. But so last thing I'm going to bring up.
Yeah.
The 6-man Intercontinental Scramble. Because we didn't touch on this, but they billed Ziggler from Hollywood, Florida. Did you catch that?
No. Did they really?
Yeah. Here's the thing. Growing up in Cleveland, every time a wrestler's from Cleveland, if they start to get momentum, they bill them from somebody else or someplace else. The Miz is from Cleveland. You know, I don't like him, but they bill him from Hollywood. And the same thing with Ziggler. But they said, and I had to rewind it and look. I listened. I swear they said Hollywood, Florida.
You might be
now,
right.
I could be wrong. My ears aren't what they used to be. I mean, I am 45. So Big E, he still looks great, but I don't know what that whole thing was with the chalk and his hands. It's like, was he playing pool? I hate Daniel Bryan's new haircut. It's not befitting of him. It made him look stupid. As dumb as it sounds, there can be something on your outfit. Like when Sheamus wore, rings in his beard and had a mohawk, it just looks stupid. There's some things that can actually dumb down a character. Sami Zayn and Bryan took it though. They took it. It wasn't bad. Nakamura is a hindsight. It's so sad to think of him in the rearview mirror. The guy, former IWGP champion, a man who knocked out one of Brock Lesnar's teeth in real life, and he's just nothing. It's so sad to see him being like just rearview mirror. So, any thoughts on that?
So comments on the side effect things of the Daniel Bryan haircut. Yeah, I gave it a chance. I was like, okay, let's see what he does. I know he's trying to change things up. And I appreciate that. Like, I do appreciate the effort of trying to at least change things and evolve, and I get it. So I do. Am I a fan of it? Nah, and I don't really like it either. But I applaud him for at least giving it a try. Yeah, I think, and I could be completely wrong, but the Big E chalk thing, I think, was a throwback to when he first started in WWE. I know he was with Dolph Ziggler when he debuted, but I was thinking, because the announcers said, it's a bit of a throwback for Big E. I think they said something along those lines, so I'm like, maybe he had... Did he do this in his early days in WWE? I don't know. So that's the only thing I could think of. But at least I will say this. He's wearing his silly New Day outfit, but they at least changed his music. So I said this at the beginning of the Big E singles run, the real one, when the New Day split, not when they were taking a vacation because they were all hurt. I said that they need to do something week by week, slowly, to evolve him into a singles character. We all want the serious Big E, but I don't think it's going to happen in a week. It needs to evolve, and as long as I see small steps week after week, I will be encouraged. And this was one of them. Okay, he's still wearing the New Day silly nonsense gear, but he got new entrance music. We didn't get the we didn't get that.
Thank God.
I was happy about that. And the match itself, it was a Pat Patterson tribute match. I'm not going to read too much into this other than just it was trying to be a feel-good, let the baby faces go over type of match and a Pat Patterson tribute match with the Intercontinental Championship. And I love that they actually brought out that original Intercontinental Championship from 1979 or whatever it was in Rio de Janeiro. That was really a nice tribute to Pat. And that video, I know we didn't talk about it either, that video tribute they did to Pat with Frank Sinatra's song, My Way.
I did it my way. Yeah.
That was, I mean, I love that because I cannot remember the last time they did a classical song, more or less Frank Sinatra, to a video package that they put together for anybody. That was really well done. I'm sure Pat would have loved it. It was heartfelt. Him singing along with Frank Sinatra during it was really cool. And of course, it had to end with a picture of Vince McMahon and Pat Patterson to end it. I mean, it just had to, of course. But it was well done. You know, you saw a lot of pictures you wouldn't have otherwise have seen. It was kind of a nice, again, peek behind the curtain for Pat and his life and his career. It was very, very well done. I do have to say that. And as bad as the production team can be at times, there are times when they put video packages together that really make you feel something, and to do it in short order is also pretty damn cool. So that's what I'll say.
No, it was pretty amazing. Like the whole production of it. Like I said, I mean the man's career is talked about and revered, and it's also marred. So with us not knowing the truth of anything, but hearing multiple truths on every side. He might have been the greatest guy to be a producer. He might have also been the biggest pervert in history. We'll never know, but he's gone. That's the only thing we can agree on is he's gone. And I look forward to, you know, the weirdest thing was looking at Vince when they did that tribute. He looks like a corpse.
Vince is old. Vince is an old guy. He's
he looks, no, I mean, I hate to say he looks bad because, I mean, I'm no, like, you know, I'm not Hunk Thunder or anything like that, but, I mean, he looks like he's got one foot in the grave, and I hate to say that, but, and just seeing that, like, everybody there, wow, it was just weird. I love a tribute, but like I said, this one's marred in controversy. Aside from that, though, it was a really cool tribute. So we'll never know. We weren't there.
No, we won't. I mean, I'm choosing to go on the side of, you know, positivity, and I get it. There's stuff out there.
Yeah.
Totally get it. I mean, there is, and just like with anybody else. And you know, it's funny. Anytime anyone dies, it could be anybody. Anytime you interview the person that may have known them, oh, they were the greatest person, they just made everyone in the room smile, and you're thinking, is that really true? Right? Like, no one that dies typically, no matter who it is, they'll say anything negative about that person that just died. I don't know if it's human nature, whatever, but so again, allegations with Pat, certainly, whether they're founded or unfounded, will probably remain in the grave, and we may never know. But I'll just go on the positive side of things and just look at his career and what he did for the business, which is certainly, I mean, it's immeasurable the amount of impact he had on the business, regardless of his allegations, whether they're true or not. The fact is, that doesn't matter because the contributions he made to the business were completely outside of that, and so. But yeah, I mean, again, I think WWE right now is in a okay position. They're heading into the Rumble, which I always look at this time of the year as a creative downslide for WWE. I don't have a big high bar right now for the company. They go into the holiday slumber creatively, typically. And to me, the real WWE creative really just starts to kick into gear January 1st. Whenever we get that first Raw back from the new year, I go, here we go. Let's get into it. It's Rumble season. It's basically WrestleMania season when the calendar flips. So I really, as much as we may be slamming on the product, look, the real season starts January 1st to me. This is always Thanksgiving and Christmas time, November, December. Typically, you don't see the best storylines because football's on. It's, holidays. People got stuff going on, all that stuff. So Yeah.
Speaking of which, the Cleveland Browns did win over the Tennessee Titans today, and I just want to let everybody know in case they forgot about that.
Well, yeah, I did not know that, and I should. I have a fantasy team. So, yeah, oh boy. Does that make you happy or sad?
It makes me really happy. You know, I'm a Cleveland guy.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, of course, but my roommate is a Tennessee guy. He's a Titans fan. Yeah, but, well, he's a good guy. If you had to have a roommate, he's the best guy to have. I'm telling you.
Well, yeah, no, that's definitely living with somebody and being just friends with somebody are two different things. I mean, you can have best friends and all of a sudden they live together thinking it's going to be great and it blows up. I mean, so that's great to hear. So, any final thoughts before we wrap things up here?
I'm really humbled to be on the show. I really love everybody and I miss you guys. And, I think it was a really great show, really positive show. And, if anybody has anything they want to talk about as far as wrestling goes, it's at 144captain on Twitter, and I would love to chat wrestling with you all day and all night because that's what I do.
That's what you do, and that you do it very well. So, and that's why you're here. So, thank you so much for being here. We will do this again sometime. I appreciate the time. I know it's sometimes, I mean, I'm like, it'll just be an hour and it ends up being freaking 2 hours. So I know everyone's time is valuable. Everyone's got stuff going on. So I appreciate it very much. And we'll do this again soon.
Absolutely, man. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Have a good night.
You too. Goodbye.